Welcome to Biotech Academy. So now in continuation with the previous lecture which was on living world, now we'll continue with where we have discussed in the previous class what we have discussed about the various terminologies, what is life, various terminologies which are used in classification, what is binomial nomenclature, etc. So now we'll talk about taxonomy and what are the various hierarchies which are present in taxonomy and what are the various taxonomical aids which are used by taxonomists in order to give nomenclature and in order to classify the new organisms in different categories. So we'll discuss all about all these things in today's lecture. So first, let's talk about what is taxa. Alright, taxa or taxa is plural or taxon, which is singular. So what is a taxa? Basically, this term was first used by International Code for Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN) in 1956. Alright, this was first, the term taxa was first used by ICBN in the year 1956 and it was defined by Mayer in 1964. Alright, now according to Mayer, what is a taxa? Taxon is defined as a taxonomic group which could be of any rank. A taxonomic group of any rank that is sufficiently distinct in order to assign a definite category. All right. So basically, it is based on a set of characteristics which are specific to a particular group or a particular category. So that is called a taxa, which is distinct from the other group. So a taxa basically is, once again, it is a group which could be of any rank in the hierarchy that has certain specific set of characteristics which are distinct from the other, and hence it could be considered and it is specific to that particular group itself. And so that is taxa, which was the definition was given by Mayer. The word taxa was used by was first used by ICBN, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, and defined by Mayer, and according to Mayer, this was the definition. Now, next is we've used in the term, in the definition we've used of any hierarchy or any rank. So next is what is taxonomic hierarchy. So next we'll talk about taxonomic hierarchy. So what is taxonomic hierarchy? Hierarchy is basically rank-wise arrangement. All right. So, and taxa we've already defined just a few minutes back. So what is taxonomic hierarchy? It is a system. It is basically a system of arranging organisms in a definite sequence, in a particular sequence of various taxonomic categories, arranged in a proper way, or arranged in descending order. Basically, it is known as taxonomic hierarchy. So what is taxonomic hierarchy? It is a system of arranging organisms in a definite sequence, and the order is descending order. All right. So it was proposed by, again, who proposed this taxonomic hierarchy? It was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. And he is also, what other thing he proposed? He was the one who proposed the binomial nomenclature for all the living organisms, which includes two words, what we've discussed in the previous lecture, which is genus, and the first indicates genus and the second indicates species. All right, and he was the one who defined, or who proposed this hierarchy, taxonomic hierarchy, and he is also considered as father of systemic botany. Why? Because he did this hierarchy for plants. So he's but now this hierarchy is basically common for across all the kingdom, but he is known as father of systemic botany. So Carolus Linnaeus is also known as father of systematic botany. Alright. This taxonomic hierarchy, which was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus, it includes 7 categories. So there are 7 categories in taxonomic hierarchy, and in descending order, starting from the lowest taxa to the highest taxa. They are, the lowest one is the species, right? Then the next level is genus, alright, then family, then order, next is class, species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, and the highest one is kingdom. So these are the 7 categories which are there in the taxonomic hierarchy, which are arranged in descending order, and species is the lowest taxa and kingdom is the highest taxa, and they are arranged. So the first is lowest is species, the next higher level is genus, higher than genus is family, then is order, then is class, then is phylum, and last is the highest taxa, that is kingdom. So now we'll talk about each one in detail now. So the first or the lowest taxon is species. So let's define what is a species. So first, it is the lowest category. It is the lowest taxon or category. Alright, in the binomial classification. Then it is a group of individuals. How do we define species? Species is basically defined as a group of individuals which resemble one another in all major vegetative and reproductive categories. So what is a species? Species is the lowest taxa, or which is a group of individuals which resemble each other in their majority of their vegetative and reproductive characteristics. So the individuals of a species, they resemble so closely that it is said that they are derived from the same parents, or they have evolved from the same parents. So they are considered as species. Alright, so this is species. It is a group of individuals with resemblance in all major vegetative and reproductive categories, and they are so close, they resemble so much that it is said that they are derived from same parents. So this is about species. Now we come to the next level, that is, or the next category, higher category, which is genus. So the second one is genus. So what is a genus? It is a group of genus is a group of related Species. It is the second level or the second category in the taxonomic hierarchy, which comes after species, and it is a group of related species. And genus is basically where it is said that all the species, because they have many, all the species which are grouped in the same genus, they have so many common characteristics, and it is and because of these common characteristics, it is said that they have evolved from the same ancestor. Remember, in species they are derived from the same parents, and in genus, because they are related species, there are some differences, but they are interconnected. So it is a group of species. So it is said that said that they have evolved from the same ancestor. So their ancestor is same, but they have evolved according to the Darwin's theory, which we'll talk about it after some time in some later lectures. So according to the Darwin's theory, which is about the survival of the fittest. So according to that evolution, after evolution, they have evolved from the same ancestor, and they have modified themselves according to the external conditions, so that they can sustain in those diverse conditions. So they have evolved from the same ancestor. So they are called, they are grouped in the same genera or the species, or the genus. Now the next one is family. So what is a family? It is an assemblage of, or it is a group of related genera. It is a group of related genera, which is the third level. So it is a group of related genera. Now the fourth one is order. Alright, so the fourth one is order, which is a group of, again it is a group of related families. Now the next one is after, so it is species, genus, family, order, then next one is class. What is a class? It is a group of, or it is a group of related orders, or several related orders they have, which are having common characteristics. They form an order. Class is a group of, it is a group of several orders which have some or the other common characteristics. I'm so sorry. So some or the other common characteristics which are there in order. So group of those orders, they form a class. Now the next one is phylum. So the sixth one is phylum. And what is a phylum? It is a class, or there are several classes which are having some features in common. They constitute a phylum. Alright, now the next one is, and the highest category is kingdom. And kingdom, it is the highest taxon or category in binomial classification or biological classification. And kingdom, it includes one or related phylum or divisions basically. And there are two kingdoms in the living world, that is kingdom Plantae, where all the plants are included, and then kingdom Animalia, which includes all the animals here. And then these are again there are various categories in these kingdoms, which we'll talk in later classes. What are the various, how the entire plant kingdom is divided into various categories, and how the entire animal kingdom is divided. So we'll talk about all the classification of plant kingdom and classification of animal kingdom, how they are classified in later classes, but this is the general, these are the general categories, or these are the general taxonomic hierarchy, where there are 7 taxons, or where there are 7 categories which are in descending order, and which starts from species and ends at kingdom. And species is the lowest taxa and kingdom is the highest taxa. Now there are certain taxonomical aids. What are taxonomical aids basically? So because we've talked about the diversity in previous lecture, so because there are this Mother Earth provides habitat to so many diverse categories of life or living forms, that studying about each individual is a very tedious task, and it is nearly impossible because of the diversity. So how they're classified and how they're identified is basically based on certain characteristics, and these are done by taxonomists who have these group of people. What they have done is they have made certain groups or certain categories in order to make their task easier for identifying newer species. They're classifying them, naming them. So in order to do that, they have made certain aids which help their which make their tedious task a bit easier, and also these taxonomical aids, they are used by common people as well. In order to identify species in their particular region. Alright, so there are certain, so what are taxonomical aids? Basically, these are techniques or procedures. So we are talking about the definition. Ideally, the definition of taxonomical aid is that these are certain set of techniques or set of procedures which are utilized to store information and specimens and various specimens for identification, nomenclature, and their classification. And the first of these is herbarium. And what is a herbarium? Herbarium is basically a depository of plant specimens in dry conditions. So herbarium is the depository of plant species or plant specimens basically in dry conditions. So these two words are extremely important: plant species specimens and dry conditions. So herbarium is only when there are plant specimens and they are stored in dry conditions. So these the various specimens which are collected, these specimens, they are dried, they are mounted on certain piece of paper, and they have to be labeled very properly, because labeling is very essential. How they are labeled? Because which includes information on who have identified who has collected the specimen, region, its local name, its common name, and its biological name or binomial nomenclature of that particular specimen. So labeling is extremely important, because if the label is not there, then it is again useless. So herbarium is a depository of plant specimens in dry conditions. So there are a set of procedures how they have to be dried. So the various steps in drying and labeling specimens for herbarium, for maintaining a herbarium, are: the first, the specimens are collected, then they are pressed and they are dried and dried, and why they are pressed? To get rid of the moisture content which is available. Then third step is sterilization, sterilization and poisoning. Why? To prevent the specimen from any fungal attack, because if even traces of moisture is left, then that particular specimen is very liable to get attacked from fungal species, and those specimens, they may get destroyed. So in order to prevent fungal attack, the specimens after drying, they are sterilized and they are poisoned so that the fungus, they cannot attack. And if at all the fungus attacks, the fungal species, they will get destroyed because of the poisoning procedure. Then the next is, if they are mounted on specific paper sheets, and by stitching on the mounting is done by stitching or pasting the specimens. And then the last step is labeling. And what are the labels? Include their local name, their common name, their binomial nomenclature, their family, place of collection, and the name of the person who has identified, and date as well as time is also mentioned. And the label which is attached on the herbarium sheets, there are specific, it has to be pasted, the label has to be pasted at specific position, which is on the right hand side, right hand corner at the bottom of the sheet. Alright, so that is the position which has been specified for attaching the label. And then these sheets are then, once they are labeled, these sheets, they are stored. So these are the set of procedures which are to be followed for maintaining a herbarium or maintaining a good herbarium. Now the next is the second is botanical gardens. First we've talked about herbarium. Now the second is botanical garden. Anyway, just a minute. So I forgot to mention about the largest herbarium which is present in the world, and largest herbarium in India. So the largest herbarium in the world is Herbarium of Royal Botanical Garden, which is at Kew in England. And India's largest herbarium is located is the Central National Herbarium in Indian Botanical Garden, which is situated at Kolkata. So these are the two names which you all must know. And one more thing is that whatever specimens which are present in herbarium, the information about all these collected specimens and identified and labeled specimens, they are published in the form of book which is known as flora, and it gives in count of, or this flora, it contains the list of all the species of all the plant species which are present in a particular region. So the flora is region specific. So all the plant specimens which are present or which are stored in the herbarium, the entire list is published to get a record, to maintain a record in the published form, and that is flora, and that is region specific. So there are certain examples are flora of British India, flora of Delhi, etc. So these are region, because see, flora of Delhi, so it is region specific, or flora of Mysore. So these are region specific and contains list of all the plant species which are present in that particular region, and the specimens of those species, they are stored in the herbarium. Now we come to the next, which is botanical garden. So herbarium, these are botanical gardens, so botany, plants. So these are also for maintaining plant species or plant specimens, but there is a thin line of difference between herbarium and botanical garden, which is in herbarium I mentioned that it is the plant specimens are stored under dry conditions, whereas in botanical garden they are maintained in their live forms. Alright, so botanical garden is they are institutions, basically they are institutions that maintain these plant specimens which are of different varieties or which are collected from different regions in living under living conditions for reference. So they are maintained they are collected from certain specific region, and the botanical garden is at some other place, and there are climatic variations. So in order to maintain that plant specimen, it provide the institutions, they provide artificial similar conditions so as to so that that particular species, that it survives in a totally different condition by providing artificial climatic conditions from which it has been collected. Say for example, if a plant specimen is being collected from Himalayan region, and it is maintained at botanical garden in some hot climatic conditions or hot and humid climatic condition, then those species, it will not survive, because it requires that cold climatic condition to sustain. So these institutions, what they do, they maintain those species, they are maintained in specific regions or specific part of that institution where those cold conditions are maintained, so that that particular specimen survives, and it is used for reference purpose. Okay, so then again, once again, there are two names which I'll mention here again. The largest botanical garden in the world is again the Royal Botanical Garden, which is at Kew in England, and in India again it is the Indian Botanical Garden, which is situated at Kolkata. So after Botanical Garden, the third aid which is which is being maintained by these taxonomists is museum. So first is herbarium, then we've talked about botanical garden. Now third is museum. So what is a museum? The museum are institutions where artistic and educational plants or animal specimens are preserved, they are stored, and they are exhibited to public. So what are museums? Museum, it is common. Earlier we've discussed about herbarium and botanical garden, which are plant specific. So they contain only plant specimens, whereas museum, it is common for both plant specimens as well as animal specimens, and these are exhibited to public as well. And in colleges, you must have seen in zoology and the botany department, various specimens, they are present for identification purposes. So how they're stored? So basically these labs where these plant and animal species are stored, they serve as museums. So basically it is educational specimens are there, and it is being exhibited to public, they are stored. So that is a sort of a museum. And these specimens, they are fixed. You must have seen in your institutions or even in your schools, in your lab, in your science lab, there are certain specimens which are stored in jars. So how they are stored? They are stored in specific solutions in which these specimens, they can be preserved for long term, and they also, these jars on the outer side of the jar. And again, you can if you go and observe the label, a label is pasted, which is again on the right hand side corner bottom, and the labels, they contain again all the sorts of information like local name, not botanical, scientific name, because it is for both plant and animal specimens are there. So their scientific name, local name, their region, and date and time when and where it was stored. Alright, so these are certain set of information which is pasted on that particular label, which is on the specimen. present in the museum. And their plant specimens, basically in museum, plant specimens, they are preserved in dry conditions, the way they are maintained in herbarium. And again, for insects, they are stored in insect boxes after collecting and killing the insects and then pinning them properly, so that all the vital organs or all the major external features of those insects, they are visible. So they are pinned in such a way that the distinguishing external features of those particular insects, they are visible during pinning. So the insects, how they are stored, the insects, they are collected, the insect specimens, they are collected, they are killed, and then during pinning, their distinguishing or remarkable feature of those particular insects, they are visible during pinning. Alright, so this is about museum. Now we come to the fourth, which is key, which is again a type of taxonomical aid. The fourth taxonomical aid is key, and we'll talk about it. So what is a key? Key, basically, it is a tool where by means of which these species, they are in a group of organisms may be identified. So basically, key are a set of specific characteristics which are specific to those particular species, and from among a group of organisms, those particular species can be distinguished. Say it is there are 5 different species which are present in a particular group and which has been collected. So there are on the basis of external visualization or external characteristics, we can identify that this particular organism belongs to this species and the other one belongs to the other species. So those identifying or those defining characteristics, they are called key. And these key which are used for identifying, they are of 2 types. One is indented key and the other is bracketed key. So on the basis of these keys, the species in a group of organisms are categorized. So what are indented key? So if a key provides a sequence of choices between 2 or more characteristics, then that is indented key, whereas bracketed key is either yes or no. That particular feature is either present or it is not present. Whereas indented key, where there may be a group of or a set of features based on which you have to categorize from the group what species that particular organism belongs to. Whereas for bracketed, it is either yes or no. So that is bracketed key. Alright, now the next is zoological parks, which is the 5th aid. And what are zoological parks? Zoological parks are basically places where zoological parks are places where animals are kept in a protected environment under human care. So you all must have visited in your lifetime of now some or the other zoo. So basically they are zoological parks actually, or they can also be called, these zoological parks, they are also called as zoo, where animals, they are kept in protected environment under human care. Under human care is very important, because otherwise then it becomes very difficult for them to because there are various different groups of animals, and one may serve as food for the other, and if human intervention is not there, then the other one, which is food for the other one, so the inferior ones, they will not be able to survive over there in those parks. So human intervention is very important, and so these are basically places where animals are stored, or sorry, they are kept in protected environment under human care, which enable us to learn or for public to learn about their food, their habits, their habitat and their behavior. Alright, so the world's largest zoo is in South Africa, and it is the Zoological Park of Kruger in South Africa, which is the largest zoo in the world. And in India, the largest zoo is the Zoo of Kolkata. And apart from these 5 taxonomical aids, there are some other aids which include flora. We've already spoken about flora. What is a flora? It is a printed form which contains list of all the plant specimens which have been stored in herbarium, and these flora, they contain list of all the plant species which have been identified and which have been classified and named according to the binomial nomenclature, so but region specific. In a particular region, if there are set of species, so these flora, they contain list of information on those particular or on all the particular species. Now the next one is monograph, and Bentham and Hooker. So Hooker was the first to identify or compile the complete flora of India. Now the next is monograph. What is a monograph? It is a handbook. It is a handbook which provides information on on any taxon or any family or genus. Monograph contains, it is a handbook on particular taxa, which may be of any rank. Third one is manuals. What are manuals? These manuals, they provide information for identification of names of species which are occurring in particular area, and they also help in correct identification and the nomenclature. They are present in the manuals. And the fourth one is catalog. And what is a catalog? It provides list of publications which may be in the form of books or periodicals or dictionaries, which provide new information for taxonomic studies. So these are some of the taxonomical aids which are used by taxonomists across the globe for identifying new species, for identifying their storage, their nomenclature, and their evolutionary, and tracing their evolutionary history. So these aids, they make their task a bit easier by categorizing or by grouping the organisms in a specific group or in specific categories, and which help in maintaining also the new species identifying. So these are the aids which are used, and with this we finish the first chapter, which is the living world, and in the next lecture we'll take up some of the questions which have been asked in previous NEET exams from this chapter. Till then, you all, I am mentioning that you all should refer to the elementary biology, Truman's Elementary Biology Volume 1 for this. And if you all have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment section or on the email ID. And study hard, work hard, and please like if you find the content useful. Subscribe to the channel for more updates, and wish you all the best. Thank you.